Something that has always drawn me into gaming is putting characters into the miniatures that I'm painting. So, what is the coolest way of finding a character inside the Battletech universe, but using this pile of character cards that we've been given in every box that we purchase? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find a character card for the miniature, the Grindle that I have, and let's paint it from what I see on the character card and consider this person's backstory and who they are. So I have found this character card for Clan Diamond Shark, and the girl's name is, I cannot pronounce this name, Maris. Oh man, these Battletech names are killing me. Anyway, she's from Clan Diamond Shark and she serves in the Gamma Galaxy 222nd Assault Cluster. And what we see from her lore, and I'm going to explain a little bit later, she is a mech warrior who used to be a star captain. Now, looking at some inspiration, when you look online, you'll see an image that looks like this. This looks dramatically different from what I am seeing here. Here I see these blue and white checker patterns, and this is my main inspiration. I have really liked that style on various mechs I've seen online. So when I click on camo specs, I see some different versions. I see this, then I see someone using the checker here. So let's look into using this for our inspiration. And I think I have the right color palette for this. So let's check out and start painting. I forgot her name and I'm not going to pronounce that again. Let's paint her mech, Maris, who pilots a Grendel. Let's jump into it. First, I'm taking scale 75 dark forest green and just gonna base this thing. And be prepared to do this in 2 layers. And the thing with base coating is just be patient, keep the paint flowing, and cover it as evenly as possible. Now diving in to start using the makeup sponge, I'm using scale 75, both dark forest green and erratic green, and mixing this 50-50. And it's really important here to make sure that we are making sure that makeup sponge has dampness to it before getting the paint mixed with it. Now it's super important to know the more you build up with lighter colors, take more of the paint off because you're kind of layering up. And as I get to lighter colors, I'm focusing on just where I believe that sun will hit or the light will reflect on the mini or the mech. Now I am going straight with errata green and hitting even at closer to the edges, if that makes sense. I don't want to go over the previous blends that I just did, so it's all about getting more of that paint off and then touching it. And I believe I had gone back to the paint multiple times just to make sure I get that very light touch with the makeup sponge. Now on this last highlight, I added this lime green, and this is super, super, super light just on the final points of the edge. And I don't know why lime green, but I think the result is quite cool. Now that I have a second, let me just mention this girl who's piloting this mech comes from Gamma Galaxy, from Clan Diamond Shark, and the nickname of this group is called the Snapping Jaws. Come on, that is cool. And something really cool about them, it seems that their tactics are based on kind of like drawing the enemy out out and crushing them. They had some interaction with Clan Jade Falcon, and they used something called the Emerald Skate, which apparently is a formation of this group, and they lured out the Jade Falcon group, and they were able to crush and go through the gap and pretty much beat their forces. That's awesome. The Emerald Skate. Okay, looking good. Now that we've finished using makeup sponge, now we can start working on brushwork. Here we go. Now I'm using Citadel Sotek Green to build the base for this checker pattern that's going to be on the mech, and I felt like this would work because it's a little bit darker and it gives me something to build up on with my lighter colors when those are coming up. Now the base of all the metals, and I'm hoping next video to show some non-metallic metal, but for sake of this time I'm using Iron Hand Steel with Citadel and picking out all the metal pieces. And I will mention one more time, check out Mechanical Frog's video on this mech and you will see some really cool artwork. See the artwork provided on his page and you will see really cool examples where to pick out the metals. And finally, an oil wash by Nolan Oil. Now the first highlight on the green is going to be straight errata green, and I guess in theory this is minimal highlights like I've been doing, and I'm not hitting every single corner. I do hit some of the darker green edges, but I am focusing mainly on where I built up that makeup sponge highlights. It makes it seem a little bit more realistic without doing highlights on every single panel. And plus, every single panel highlights take a lot of time, and I really just appreciate this style of painting. If you make a mistake here, it is easy to touch up, but I would say be careful because you spent so much time building up that almost that gradient using the different colors, so you got to be super careful, but you can touch it up. But I will say from experience, it looks better when it's not touched up. I'm using a mix of 80% errata green and a little bit of ice yellow, and I'm not doing on top of the full highlight that I just did, but almost 60% of that, and picking out just those tips again where the makeup sponge was able to build up where that object source lighting is coming from the sun. And yet again about this pilot card that we're painting, she was apparently given the rank of Star Captain, but she had some technical blunders which caused her to lose her command. But by the time it was for the clan invasion, she was eager to join so she could avenge and show her free birth blood, which is really cool. She is a fierce pilot who is piloting a Grendel. This seems like too many times adding the ice yellow, but I wanted to just try building up a little bit more this time instead of jumping straight into the ice yellow. So I'm even being more careful with how much paint I use on the edges, but just trying to, in a way, build up a layer on that edge highlight. And finally, the quote at the bottom of her card says, "Maris hungers to prove that her trial of position was not a case of simple luck, not just to others, but to herself. Now, finally going to the ice yellow, and I'm picking out just the center of the panels in the corners to kind of accentuate where the light is hitting on the panels and the metal of the mech. Now I wanted to put a little bit of a blue glaze in the cracks of the parts of the mech and also in some of the corners of the panels and then inside the arms to just give a little bit of depth of contrast to the mech. Now I'm going to use a micron pen here to first lay out where these checker boxes are going to be. I would highly suggest using this instead of going blindly into it, because using the micron pen, it's washable. You can take it right off, but it helps give you that base where if you were to make a mistake, you have an easy way of cleaning it up and seeing where those boxes should be for this checker pattern. Believe me, I've done checker patterns without the micron pen and it was bad. Now I'm going to use off-white from Model Color to start blocking out some of the sections here where the white should be. I'm not going straight into a pure white because I want to have that ability to highlight later on. It's always good to use kind of like the off-whites when painting white because you want to give yourself the chance to highlight later on. Now the first color I'll start using for blocking out the blue is going to be Model Color Medium Turquoise, and I will use another blue on top of that to highlight these squares, but I'm starting here with this turquoise on top of the Battletech green, which is also a little bit of a turquoise. Battletech blue, not green. And it's funny, you will see me even make mistakes with using the micron pen, but I love having the micron pen because I was able to block out those squares from the beginning, and then as I make mistakes, it's much easier to clean it up as you go on. To highlight the turquoise squares, I'm going to use Citadel Lothran Blue, and I'm just hitting either the tops or the sides of the squares. And you could do it either way. You could do it watered down where you glaze a little bit in the center, or you can do this a bit of edge highlighting style. I'm doing the edge highlighting style, but either way would look really cool. For the white boxes, I'm highlighting now with Green Stuff World Nuclear White. And the same thing, I'm just picking up those edges so you can see the off-white underneath it in places. So we can show highlighting even on this checker boxes. At this point, I realized that there was no shading in the missile pod area, so I added just a little touch of Nolan oil, and then I believe in the blue area I'm using the same contrast mix of blue that I used for that recess shading and glazing earlier. I'm going to start putting white here as I've done before in the other videos where I add a little bit of glow using fluorescent colors. And this model had something a little bit different. It had a center part of the barrel, which is cool. And with the jump pack, you're gonna see I'm adding just a small amount of white, and I'm going to do more of a glaze of the fluorescence there on the back of it to give it a little bit of a feeling like it's hot. Not object source lighting from the red, but almost like he just landed, she just landed, and the mech jump jets are super hot from that massive jump. So now I'm moving into that red here, and I'm trying not to put a lot, because usually when I give this glow effect, I go kind of deep, really deep into it. But in this case, I'm just glazing a little bit on it. It's one of those things that it's a small touch that some people might not even see, but you see it. And when you're playing with this model on the tabletop, you can just kind of smile at those little touches of paint that you did on it. To highlight the silver sections, I'm using Citadel Stormhost Silver, and just as the previous videos, just slight highlights on the edges. Don't go too crazy because you want to show the depth of shadow that was already put there by the Nolan oil from the previous steps. Now I want to start working on the cockpit area, and I'm doing this purple effect again. I'm using the model color royal purple and putting it through the very small squares on the grindle. Then I'm taking a 50-50 of the royal purple mixed with Green Stuff World lilac purple and doing about half of those little boxes. And the boxes to the left of the cockpit are very challenging to do this effect, but it's working. Then less and small amounts of the lilac, and finally using monocolor pink and hitting the very small corners of the boxes here at the cockpit. And then finally, I really like to put a glaze of that on the sides to show a little bit of glow on the cockpit. Next, I am following what I see on the card, and the card shows a 55 here. And I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like I see the number 55 on so much of the artwork of these mechs. Someone please tell me I'm wrong, but I feel like I always see 55. And here's the final result of Maris's mech, the Grindel. I'm really happy the way this one turned out. And if you guys know this whole 55 thing, why I'm seeing 5 on so much artwork, Nonetheless, this was a great time. And actually, I was going to show a little bit in the video. I described those red hot back jets. I really like the way those turned out. And I still don't know if they'll pick up when you're playing a game, but those little touches make you kind of feel proud what you did. Nonetheless, thank you so much for watching the video. Please like, subscribe, and I cannot wait to show you more of the paint jobs that I have planned upcoming. So I will see you guys next time.